Now we're going to talk about the definitions of the different sides of triangles. And the first one we're going to talk about is the hypotenuse. There's our hypotenuse. So let's start with a right triangle. And the hypotenuse is the longest side of the right triangle, and it's across from the right angle. So let's talk about how we can find the hypotenuse. The first thing I have to do is find the right angle, or if there is no symbol, to draw one. So in this particular case, there isn't a right angle symbol, but it's obvious which one is the right angle, and I'm just going to draw the symbol right there. The next thing I need to do is to draw an arrow with the right angle symbol as the arrowhead. So what does that mean? I just drew it right there. I just copied over the right angle symbol and just threw that extra line in there, and you see how it's turned into an arrow? Well, that arrow points to the hypotenuse. If I continue where that arrow is pointing, it's pointing to that side right there. And so in this particular triangle, line segment BC, the one I've put in red, is my hypotenuse. Now let's talk about the next side, which is the opposite. And for the opposite, I'll do it in blue to make it different from the hypotenuse, which is in red. Before we get started, though, let's have a quick word about opposites. Opposites are as far away from each other as possible. So if I were to ask you, what's the opposite of never? Hopefully you could think about it for a minute, and you'd come up with the opposite of never is always. And the reason that the opposite of never is always is because it's as far away as possible. The opposite of never is not usually or often. Those are far away from never, but they're not as far away. Always is as far away on the continuum right there, as possible from never. So never and always are opposites. Similarly, the opposite leg is as far away from possible as from the angle. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look. So the opposite leg is across from the selected angle, or as far away from the selected angle as it could be. So the first thing is that you have to figure out what is the selected angle, and that'll always be given to you. In this case, we'll just call it angle B. And so there's the symbol telling us that angle B is the angle we're talking about here. Next, I'm going to draw an arrow from the angle's vertex through the angle symbol. So it looks like that. And that arrow points to my opposite leg, which is right there. Again, notice that my opposite leg is as far away as possible from my angle. The other two sides, if I look at them, are not as far away from that angle as possible. That blue line segment is as far away from angle B as it can be. So that is my opposite leg. Now we're going to talk about the adjacent leg. And the adjacent leg is the non-hypotenuse side that makes up the selected angle. So again, for this one, we're going to talk about angle B. And my first step is to find the hypotenuse and the opposite, which I've already done. They're that red and that blue line there. And then to find the adjacent is the remaining unselected side. So in this case, that side right there in green is my adjacent. So now we know how to find all three sides, the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent.